Hey everybody, it's your girl Urban Farm Sister.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. All right, so today we are going to talk about how to make sourdough starter. This is one of many um, streams we're going to do because we're going to take you through the whole process of how to go about actually baking sourdough bread. But sourdough bread always starts with this starter. So hold on a second. All right. So let me introduce myself for those of you who do not know me. I know I haven't been on in a while, and just want to do a quick introduction of who I am and what I do. My name is Nadiaruffin. I'm located in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm an entomologist, a scientist, a farmer, researcher, and educator. I have 2 degrees. I have a bachelor's of science in agriculture from the Ohio State University. They are measured in animal sciences and pre-veterinary medicine, as well as I minored in entomology. I have a master's of science in entomology from the University of Nebraska. I am owner of Kiwi Produce and founder of Agri Academy Incorporated. I'm co-owner of Agri Academy Labs LLC. Like I said, I'm an urban farmer. I grow produce and things here in the city on a empty lot that I purchased, and I turned it into a farm. And then I also grow in hydroponics, which is using you growing plants in water without the use of soil. I own bees. I'm a beekeeper. I teach beekeeping. I also own chickens. I also teach how to, own chickens, raise them for meat or eggs. And so I teach a lot of different urban agricultural techniques to individuals that would like to learn. I have years of experience in floriculture. My family owns a flower shop here in Cincinnati called Blossoms Florist. Before I became this independent entomologist, scientist, researcher, farmer, I used to work in veterinary medical research as well as a disease investigator with public health. I would like to thank all my contributors. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so by contributing to my PayPal. You can send it to nadiaruffin@gmail.com, CashApp Nadia Ruffin, or you can use my Patreon at patreon.com/Urban Farm Sister. Also, for Agri Academy Inc., we are always taking donations. We have numerous projects coming up in the spring. One in particular is Farming is Essential, where we will be growing produce as well as teaching urban farming and small scale farming techniques to um, particularly African Americans to get more Black farmers here in the Midwest region. So if you'd like to contribute to that, you can go to www.agriacademyinc.org/farming. And the project that we're really going to focus on teaching Black farmers is called Black Empowerment Through Agriculture. Um, if you're interested and you live in the Cincinnati tri-state area, you can go and fill out this form and you can get registered and possibly be part of this actual online course that we're offering for free. So if you'd like to sign up for that, you go to www.agriacademyinc.org/beta. To be considered for this course, you must meet the following criteria. You must be a minimum of 10 years old or and up. We have both a youth and an adult cohort. You must identify as Black or African American. You must live in the Cincinnati tri-state area. And all these classes will take place online, so you must be familiar with Zoom, as well as using online software and things such as email and things like that. We only have spots for 100 individuals. We intend to enroll 50 youth as well as 50 adults. It says the application deadline was December 15th. It's been extended. The actual course will start the week of January 18th. So if you are interested and you live in Cincinnati tri-state area and you identify as Black or African American, please go and sign up for the class. Please note that this is not a gardening class. This is a course to show you how to small scale farm for profit. So we're going to walk you through the steps of how you can register, say, your yard or something as a farm. If you generate at least $1,000 income annually, you're considered a farm. The size of your actual space does not matter. But if you grow and produce a product, you're considered a farm if you generate at least $1,000 in revenue. So again, if you're interested and you live in Cincinnati and you're African American, please sign up for the class. All right. So just want to see who's leaving any messages today. Hi, Shanika Bedford. Hi, Appreciable Assets. Some terms that I think are important for today are leaven. And what leaven means is a substance used in dough or batter to make it rise, such as yeast or baking powder. Lactic acid. Lactic acid or lactate is a chemical byproduct of anaerobic respiration. And anaerobic means there's no oxygen present. This process is process by which cells produce energy without oxygen around. So lactic acid bacteria, they produce lactic acid as primary or secondary fermentation products. Fermentation is a metabolic process in which an organism converts a carbohydrate, which a carbohydrate is a sugar, such as starch or a sugar, into an alcohol or an acid. The environment, again, has no oxygen present. And a yeast is a microscopic fungus that are capable, or microscopic fungi, that's a typo, that are capable of converting sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. All right, so what is sourdough? Sourdough is a slow fermented bread. It does not require commercial yeast in order to rise. So commercial yeast is the yeast that you buy in the store, and usually when you're baking bread, you'll add this yeast to like sugar water or something, and you'll allow it to start to foam up in the air, and then you'll add that yeast to your flour, and then it'll help your flour rise. Well, when you're making sourdough, it is made with live fermented cultures, actual wild yeast, and as well as bacteria that actually live amongst the flour in the first place. So that's why they always tell you shouldn't eat flour, especially when it's raw, because there's microorganisms present. While yeast and some of the lactic acid bacteria that are present won't make you sick, there could be some pathogenic bacteria like salmonella or E. coli and things like that present. That's why you should never eat raw flour. But yes, these microorganisms are present, and when flour and water are mixed, enzymes in the flour convert long starch molecules into simple sugars, providing the perfect fuel for these microorganisms to reproduce. The two most important microbes that are found in this sourdough are yeast and lactic acid bacteria. So today we're going to be shown how to make sourdough starter, and we have Chef Celeste with us again, which she'll be coming in shortly. But she's going to show us how to actually go and start our sourdough starter. A sourdough starter is used to actually start your sourdough. You use flour and you use water, and they are combined. The mixture is allowed to sit for a few days to allow microorganisms to undergo fermentation. When you're ready to bake, you will add that starter to the flour that you're going to use for your bread, and that instance is how you go about making your sourdough. All right, so just yeast in general, wild yeast cultures are found in flour and are activated when water is added. Adding water creates sugars yeast use for energy. The yeast produces gas, which is carbon dioxide, which causes the dough to rise. So we have a picture off to the right here of some yeast at the top. And down here we have some dough that was started. On the left picture, that's when the yeast is first present. It's added to there. And then what happens is once you let it sit in a warm environment, not too hot, not too cold, what will happen is that yeast will start to break down the sugars that are in there, and they'll release carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide is what actually causes that flour to rise. Lactic acid bacteria. So lactic acid bacteria are a number of different species. The common ones are lactobacillus, are found in flour, and the environment, are activated when water is added. Adding the water again creates the sugars these bacteria and yeast use for energy. The bacteria break down sugars into lactic acid. So when they break this down, this contributes to the flavor of sourdough. It gives it that sour flavor that you are familiar with if you ever had sourdough. So can anybody tell me some other foods that may use lactic acid bacteria? Can somebody just type it in the comments? I'll give you guys a few seconds. All right. So, hey, Chandler Glover. Chandler Glover said beer. Yes, beer does contain lactic acid bacteria. Um, I'm sorry, I might butcher this. Is Dionysia Lenore? She said fermentation. Yes, so the presence of these bacteria will cause fermentation, but can you think of any foods that actually use fermentation? Um, and they actually use these lactic acid bacteria to make certain products. There's one main product that it's used in. Um, it's a milk-based product. Yogurt. Janelle Small said cabbage. Yes, when you're making kimchi, you actually use lactic acid bacteria to break down the cabbage to make kimchi. Chandler Glover, he said yogurt. Yes, that's correct. Yogurt. So if you ever think of milk and you have a milk in the refrigerator and if it's in there too long, when it goes starts to spoil, number one, it has that sour flavor. The reason it has that sour flavor is that those lactic acid bacteria are present and they're breaking down that lactose sugar that's in there. Them breaking that down, they create acid, and that acid causes that milk to actually curdle together, and that's why you have those chunks. It's actually all that the milk proteins and things curdling together because of that acid that's present. So when you think of rotting milk, yogurt is essentially rotting milk. That lactic acid bacteria, they put it into the milk. They allow that uh, bacteria to create that acid, and it creates those curds and things like that. Also, things like cottage cheese. Uh, Dionysia said cheese, and yes, that's correct. Lactic acid bacteria are present in that as well. So you guys are very smart. You know you're about your lactic acid bacteria. And I see Janelle Small. Yes, yogurt is correct. All right. So sourdough starter. How do you go about doing this? Well, first you're gonna make your initial starter. You may see on day one what you're gonna do is you're gonna mix your ingredients together. Day two, you may see some small bubbles. Day three, the starter is pretty much dotted with bubbles and is visibly larger in volume. Between day 4 and 5, it has doubled in volume and collapsed. It will look very bubbly. And day 5 is still very bubbly. You feed it one time and use it in 6 to 24 hours. After this, if you don't use it, then what you're going to do is you're going to take a little bit of that starter and you're just going to start that process of feeding it over and over again until you're going to use it. With these starters, you want to keep them alive. Basically, you could start a starter and it could go on for years if you take care of it. A lot of starters, they are uh, passed on to generation. And so that is what Chef Celeste was going to teach us about, using sourdough starters as something to pass on to the next generation and they can keep it alive and they can use it. There's some starters that are still sold today that are 200 years old. So yeah, it's something interesting that we can pass on. along with our families and things like that. But you can also use it to make bread and things. So, making sourdough. Basically, we're gonna make this starter, and when you add that water to the flour, you're gonna have bacteria that's present in the flour as well as bacteria that may be in the air. They're going to get into the flour. You're gonna have yeast present. What's going to happen is they're going to ferment the flour, and they're going to make it rise. The bacteria is going to give it that sour flavor, and then you're going to use that starter to actually go and bake your bread. Um, it's a whole, chemistry experiment here. You have acids being produced, you have gases, you have all types of little microorganisms. You have flour, you have wheat. So I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on here. So it's not just simply you just make bread. There's a lot of science that goes into this. All right, so without further ado, so Chef Celeste of Heavenly Plate Sides and Desserts. She's located actually in Fresno, California. If you like to follow her on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, you can do so under Heavenly Plates, Sides, and Desserts. And now I'm going to add her to the stream so that she can start showing us how to make this sourdough starter. Can you hear me, Celeste?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm up here trying to update my Facebook page because I've been so busy and I haven't had the opportunity. Thank you for letting me be on your show. I appreciate it so much. Let me move this out the way. And
Oh, you're welcome.
and I'm really happy. I'm excited about what we're about to learn. I learned a lot. This is like actually a kind of like a fledgling thing for me. It's not something that I've done ever before. So I'm really learning a lot. I already started experimenting with creating the cultures, and I've had a good time just learning about them and seeing how they grow and function. So with that being said, I want to show you a little bit about what I've already done so that you all can see how this kind of works. So what I have here is my main two starters, and I named them because these are important. They're like artifacts, something that you can take serious and pass down from throughout your family for generations. And as a culture, we have a few things that we pass down, but um, I haven't seen anything like this. So I really hope you all take this seriously and look at it like it becomes a family tradition. So this one here, I named it Sally, and Sally was my mom's name. And this one here, I named Leona, and Leona is my grandma. And just a little background: my grandma owned a restaurant in Cincinnati, Ohio, called Leona's Fish Grill. So a lot of my influence is from her. And so this to me is like a connection to my ancestors, but that's another story. So let me see if I can come around there and show you all just what's going on here. So I started this starter the 26th of December. And so if you look closely, you see this. That's some liquid, but it's also a demonstration that the starter is active, and you'll see that the it has some foam here on the top, which is a demonstration, and the little bubbles. Let me see. Take the top off. Let's see if you all can see inside it. It has an appley smell, and when I first did it, I had a bowl of apples sitting by it, and it took on the scent of apples, but it's also kind of vinegary too. So it what it does is it'll you see here. Let me see. I don't know if you all can really see the markings here, but This is where it starts at. And well, it starts here, and this is where it started when I am first creating it. And then what it will do over time is it will rise up and then drop back down. And so if you look, you see here, this is the line where it rolls up, and then here it's dropping back down. So once it rises up and drops back down, um, you it's kind of a sign to say that you need to feed it. So anyway, that's just what I've learned so far. And so these are my two babies. Let me move those out of the way. I also started experimenting with this one. And so this one has because what I did over the weekend is I put them in the refrigerator to bring them to kind of, because what happens is they stay warm and active, but once you refrigerate them, they kind of go dormant, and so they won't grow, and they'll kind of go into like a rest period. But you still need to feed it. So I changed their regimen because I have been feeding them once a day, and I wanted to see how much activity I could generate in them. So I took a pork, and I also changed the feeding schedule, the type of food that I feed them, because once you start feeding them, you kind of have to feed them you feed them the same food. And so you can feed them once a day, you can feed them twice a day. It just depends on a few things. One, the temperature. You have to keep the temperature of your house really kind of warm, because they like that warm. Like when when something sours, it sours more when it's in warm environments. Warm environments create spoilage, sort of. If that's a good way to explain it. So I took this, and I wanted to try to um, create just a starter to begin to see how I can create one to start baking with. So I took a portion of this, because once you'll get what's called discard. And so I can feed one for y'all today, because I haven't fed these two yet. So I can feed that. I can also feed this. So, but I'm just giving you all some kind of background information on it. But first, let's do this. Let's get a start. Let's first show all of the equipment that you're going to need. And you don't have to have everything that I have. You can use a mason jar. You just want something that's going to hold a vessel, that's going to hold your starter. That's going to be enough, because sometimes these things can grow really, really volatile. So if you have them closed, it's not like making ginger beer or kombucha or something like that. These, if you close these up in it, because those kinds of fermented products, they have a way of being able to breathe and let out that extra air or whatever chemical components are that present, so that it won't explode. But in this case, it's not like that. So you have to use a loose fitting top. You can use a glass jar and some plastic wrap, and just cover it up with plastic wrap. Okay, so I have this. It's a 32-ounce jar. It's called a whack. You all can look those up on Amazon. You got to have a scale, because to weigh your products. You could use a measuring cup or something like that, but these require extreme accuracy. So you use a scale. I also have this spatula. It's a nice little jar spatula for mixing things up. And I have a a thermometer. The thermometer is to take the temperature of the water, because the water has to be a specific temperature too. These things they're sensitive until they become, I guess, like really robust and alive. And you have to keep them alive because they're living things. You know, it's like having a cow. What are you going to do? You going to have a cow and not feed it? You know, you have a plant. You're just going to have your plant and not feed your plant. You have to feed these. So they're plants. You know, they're made out of flour and water, so they're plants, and you want to feed them so that they stay alive. Now, on to the products. What I have is this dark rye stone ground flour, and this recipe that I'm using is different from the one that I started these two with. And these two I started with using the recipe from King Arthur flour. So you can use that recipe. This recipe came from somebody named Joshua Weissman on YouTube. So you can look those recipes up. And I also have this organic all-purpose flour here. And this all-purpose flour is used for the feedings. So let me put together. It's very easy, very easy. And I'm really excited about trying this one because I haven't used a flour for this. What I'll do also is I'll put you ready, Nadia?
Yep, I got my flour and stuff.
Okay, all right. What you got over there?
I just have some whole wheat flour
Uh-huh.
that I'm going to use.
Okay.
So I'm going to try it with that. I know you can try it with rye and some other stuff. I'm going to try it with what I had already.
Right, right. That's what I did. I used 113. I have the recipe right here on the bottom on the jar in case I pass, so that my kids can know how to keep it alive. I told them, this is what I'm passing down to you when I pass, and they was like, what? I said, yeah, you got to keep it alive too. It was like, that's what we gonna have to do. My oldest daughter, she was like, oh my God, mommy. So anyway, what I'm gonna use is what you do. Okay, you start documenting. Make sure you document it. This is gonna be a whole new starter for me. So I'm documenting you document the size, how much your jar weighs. The reason for that is because you're going to have to feed it. You're going to have to take some of this out, take some out, and that's called the discard, and then add add some fresh food to it. So this jar weighs 300, and I've been weighing them at 388 grams. So you want to, here, I'm going to go get some water too. Hold on.
Okay.
So you add 100 grams of flour. And this is this is the dark rye stone ground flour, and it's organic. But you can actually do this with like your all-purpose flour. Just don't use bleached flour. Unbleached all-purpose flour works just fine. And some water, and you can create a very robust, hearty starter to and you end up not ever having to buy store commercial yeast, you know. And like I said, it's just a wonderful tradition to start. So I have 387 grams, right? So 388 grams. So I'm adding 100 grams of flour here, and that's going to take it up to 488 grams, right? 300 plus 400 is 800. I mean, 300 plus 400 is 800. Exactly. No, 388 plus 100 is 488. So you take this up to 488. How much did your container weigh, Nadia?
66 grams. It's a plastic container.
Huh?
66
Yeah.
grams.
Okay. So then yours is at 156 grams now, right?
Yeah, I wrote it down and tiered it out, so I took it back to 0 and then just did
Oh
100 grams.
yeah. And that's something else you can do too. You can take your scale and zero it out. You can weigh your vessel, but you can also take your scale and zero it out. So and once I finish doing this, I'll show you all how to do how I do that. Okay. Now you add 100, and so whenever you're feeding your starter, is what I learned is that whatever amount. So for example, if you have 25 grams of starter, then you feed your starter more in weight of the feed. So if we have 25 grams of starter, then you use 50 grams of your feeding material, your feeding product, like 50 grams of your flour, and then you add. And so now onto the water. So this water is 81. It's 81 degrees, but that's cool. Bring it up to like 85 or something like that. That's a very usual warm kind of environment for the yeast to grow. I'm gonna make it a little bit warmer so that we can have a good start on this. You don't want it to be too hot though, because then you run the risk of actually killing it. It can get too cold and it can get too hot. And so,
Right.
like, okay. And so, um, okay, so now I'm going to add 100 grams of warm water here. And that's going to take mine up to 588 grams. And so now what you want to do is just mix it, which I made this a little bit too loose, but that's okay. And so you want your consistency to be pourable.
Is that horrible?
Pourable.
Oh.
Yeah. And so this is a good texture, see? And write the date and write out your recipe, what you use to start your starter. It's also called a mother, which makes sense. It's the beginning of something, the beginning of a life. And so long as it's mixed in real good.
Do you want to make sure you get all the flour? You don't want any dry flour?
No.
Okay.
Everything mixed in really well. And so for me, I wanted to experiment a little bit. So I played with the texture, the pourability. So this one is really thick. Is yours thick too, Nadia?
Yes.
That's okay. We're gonna work with this. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to mark where this is at, because you want to be able to see how much it rolls, or how much it, and how much. Okay, so I have my marker here, and so here, just create a line of where it starts at. I'm gonna put the date. Okay, first time I had to write the date all year. So now, your starter is pretty much made. Now it's just about watching it and feeding it. So, this is very simple. I didn't create this. I'm not the maker of this, but I will be a maker of some bread. And so, the recipe for this particular starter is online. It's on YouTube, and I'll put the link. We'll share the link in the description at the end. Because it's important to feed these on a schedule. So there's a feeding schedule that comes with this. We don't have to reinvent the wheel on things, to make them a tradition for us. And Nadia,
Yes.
did you were you able to do any research, because I've seen it, but I don't remember, because have so much on my mind, just busy. But how long have humans been harvesting yeast for baking bread? Do you know that? Because somebody looked that up for us. How long has this process been going on? It's been going on for thousands and
Thousands
thousands
of
of years.
years.
Thousands
I
of
know.
years.
I know. Ancient Egyptians used to use yeast to make beer and things, so it's been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just like fermentation in and of itself is so important, especially like even fermentation is used for preserving, you know. And so like this, not this particular one, but like kimchi, stuff like that, those things preserve very well, you know.
Yes.
So you want to put a not a tight fitting lid on it. Uh, lift that lid. Don't put your lid on
It,
tight.
I didn't. I just sat it on there.
Yeah, sit it on there, and there we have it. Let me get this written down. What should I name? I name stuff, y'all.
So Dionysia Lenore said about 5,000 years. Ali Fate Harris, he said sent to beyond Kemet. Yeah, it's been around for a while that we've been utilizing yeast and other microorganisms for food as
And
well as other
I
things.
think, can they talk to us about what they think about passing this down as a tradition? I think that's like a wonderful thing for us to do, something for us to take pride in, in creating our own cultural traditions, just because of how far removed we are from having our mother tongue uh, 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 talks and things like that we pass down from our homeland, So
Right.
this is something that we can start as a tradition amongst our people, and it's simple. It's real simple. Having
Yes.
these things to pass down. That's important. That's very important.
So
So,
Ali Fate Harris said he had a chef in culinary school with a 50-year-old starter.
mm-hmm.
And he also said he loves how you actually name them.
Look, let me tell you something. They're like my babies now,
Yeah.
I worry about them. People travel with them. Now, the most amazing thing about them, they can survive for 50 and 60 years. You just keep them alive, or hundreds. And so, and I told my children, I said, well, you know what? When I die, if you don't feed it, it dies. I did.
Yeah.
I said, so if you don't feed it, it's going to die.
Right.
You don't want that to happen, because I'm going to come back for you.
Right.
You didn't feed my starter?
Right.
Yeah, so I might name one after me.
The Celeste.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so now this is going to be it's simple. Let me see. Let me do a little bit of homework. What time is it?
6:48 or
Yeah,
3:48, I guess, your
3:48.
time.
Um, so now, when you all make y'all's, you're gonna feed it in 24 hours, and then from there you're going to feed it again 24 hours, just once every 24 hours for 4 days, 4 or 5 days. I think that's what the schedule said. But there is a feeding schedule, and I suggest you use it. You know, use the feeding schedule, and and watch it. Make sure that it stays in a warm environment. They stay warm. Keep them warm, like at 75 degrees, not even.
Room temperature like 72. Yeah,
Yeah,
about 72.
yeah, and
Because anything
watch.
above that can possibly, it'll accelerate the growth, but then it eventually gets too hot, and anything below that is going to be too cold. It's going to slow them down. So
Yeah.
room
Oh, yeah.
temperature is good.
Definitely slow them down. So you want to kind of keep the growth of it consistent, because what's going to happen is that you're going to use this to bake bread. And so once you do that, which we'll go through this process together. So what's going to happen is it's going to, and you want to mark it after today. Mark it every day that it rises, how far it rises up, and when and where it drops down to, because you want this to double. Because usually doubling is what you want your leavener to do for your bread. You know,
Yep.
you want it to double. So the same thing here. This is your leavener. Your leavener. You want your leavener to double. So keep track of it. Watch it, because you'll be able to tell from the lines in it, like here, just like here. You see how this came up here and then dropped back down. And but this one here, these are a little finicky right now, because I had them in the refrigerator for like 7 or 8 days and I didn't feed it. So
Yeah.
I've taken it out of the refrigerator, I fed it. I started feeding it twice a day. You know, you can really like explore with these how well they are. Oh, okay. So we got this made, and I think I've said everything that I needed to say. Flour, 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water is your starter today. Using
Yes.
dark rye stone ground flour. Nadia's using wheat flour. This one, these are made of a combination of 113 grams of white all-purpose flour, wheat flour, and water. 113, 113, 113. I've broken them down to 100 and no, I've broken these down to 50 grams of starter, 50 grams of white flour, and 50 grams of wheat flour, and 100 grams of water. And so that's what these are now. Feed it for you right now if y'all need me to. Would y'all like for me to feed it so y'all can see how the process goes?
Yeah. So when you feed it, do you use what I use the same wheat flour or a different flour?
You use the same flour that you feed
Okay.
it with. You start whatever you use to make it, pretty much that's what you feed it with. So, and this one, they're over scheduled right now because I haven't fed them. Let me show y'all something too. So you'll know when your leavener is ready if when you take some out, it floats. Let me get a spoon. Let me see, this is Sally, and I'm gonna get the other ingredients that I use to feed it with too. So I use let me get some warm water. Some warm water just here in a second. I absolutely love doing this here at home. This is the life. Okay, so grab this right quick so I can show y'all. Okay, so if this was the flour, this was a leavener that I was getting ready to use for to bake with. I take a little bit out and test it. And to test it to see if it's ready, you take and put a little bit in some water. Ah, if it floats, then that means it's good. It's good for, look at that. Can y'all see it floating? That means it's ready. Now, it's ready for using for baking. Now, there is a um, a point at which the starter has the potential to be its very best. So once it comes up, I think, and drops down, y'all might have to do the research on that to find out the best when is it best to use your starter. Even though this floats, it could still float, but it may not be at its prime point, you know. So I'm kind of particular about my jars and keeping my jars that I keep my starters in pretty clean because I want to see how they rise and fall and what happens. So um, what I do is I take this weigh it after I weigh the full thing just to check to see uh, where it may have lost some weight or picked up some or whatever. So this is at 665, and that could be because of how I measured it the other day. But don't matter, because what I'm going to do is, it don't matter. I'm going to take out 50 grams. I'm going to take out everything out of here except for 50 grams. So, or I'm going to pour. I usually like stir it up. And so once it's stirred, it's kind of deflated. Stir it up, then make it sure that you are. I'm just gonna pour it into this bowl, and I'm gonna go clean my jar out. I'll be spending a lot of time. This stuff really don't supposed to take but about 5 or 6 minutes, but I'll be taking my time, enjoying this process. You know, I use up a few bowls and everything just because like I said, I just enjoy it, you know. And whenever I have grandchildren, they'll get to see me doing this, and they'll want to do it too. They'll be like, "Granny, what you doing?" I'll be like, "Come and watch." So I'm going to clean this jar out here. And I usually have okay, so I'm going to add 50 grams of this starter here. And I pretty much know the weights of this by heart and how to do this. So I add 50 grams. And that's going to take me up to 438. And so this right here, this is your discard. And so you see how much I have left? I mean, I could really like use this to, and you can look up recipes for discard recipes. You can make pancakes, waffles. You can make anything really, but really pancakes and waffles, because that's what it's good for. Because after you discard it, it's not really good because you've gone through this process and you deflated it, and you probably taken out. Let's see if it still will float. How about that? Let's do that little thing, that little float test again. See how it went to the bottom? No floating. So it's not good for baking with.
So at what stage would I, if I wanted to share it with someone, what stage would I do that?
Oh, you know what you could do? You could take that discard. Let me get some water. Okay, so if you wanted to share this with your friends and family and pass these down to your friends and family, you could just take this discard. You could feed this discard in smaller jars, like I did this one here. Like this one here. You can put it in a smaller jar and use it for gifts, you know, passing it out to your family members. But just feed it whatever amount. Like if you take 25 grams of this discard, and then add 25 grams of whatever flour you're going to use to feed it with, and 25 or 50 grams of the flour that you're going to feed it with, and then 50 grams of water, and then you can just share it with somebody. Now, the issue with sharing it is you want to make sure that they have the recipe for feeding it, because if they don't feed it, what's going to happen? It's going to die.
Yeah,
Right?
it'll die. It'll
Yeah,
die. Yeah.
it'll die. It'll die. So let me check the temperature of this. Okay, well, it's 80 degrees. It's cool. It'll work. And so now I take and I add 50 grams of this wheat flour here. And this is going to take me up to 488 grams. Okay. Then I take, so we have 50 grams of starter, we have 50 grams of wheat flour, and now we add 50 grams of all-purpose flour. And I always use a freezer storage bag in my container because I don't like the flour to get stuck down in the bottom, but that's just one of my things. Okay, so now we're going to add 50 more grams of all-purpose flour. 488 is going to take me up to 538.
So you do this after the first 5 days of initial growing, or you do this? I do this tomorrow, or
Yeah, yeah,
which one?
tomorrow.
Okay. So I gotta take off 50. I have to take off 50 grams.
Yeah, no, you take out all but 50 grams. So
Okay.
for your starter tomorrow, no, you're feeding it weight for weight tomorrow. You don't break it down until like the 5th or 6th day.
Okay.
So tomorrow when you feed your starter, you're gonna feed your starter 100 grams and
Okay.
100 grams. And you'll probably feed it 100 grams of what your straight wheat flour that you're using. Feed it 100 grams of that with 100 grams of water.
Okay.
Okay, 85 degrees. 538. And so I have this flour here because I want you all to see this, because when you follow that feeding schedule that I'm going to share with you at near the end of your feeding schedule, what you're going to be feeding it is this along with the rye flour. Here on this one, I took this discard and I just used plain white flour because I just wanted to see how this is going to work, and I was going to see if I could use it to actually start baking a bread. It smells so good. Wait till you all get a chance for that vinegary, appley smell. It's amazing. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with 100 grams of water. Take my mixture here up to 638 grams. And sometimes, I'll go over a little bit. I'll just pour some out. You really want to kind of customize this and what feels comfortable to you. And so this is an adventure for me, just seeing how well I grow this culture, like growing cultures. Nadia, growing cultures is different from uh, uh, growing a plant.
Oh yeah. These are microorganisms. So you have a fungi and you have a bacteria. They operate totally different than plants.
Right,
Um,
because they don't use oxygen. They're
they don't,
anaerobic, right?
well, they don't. Well, plants they use carbon dioxide. They use a little oxygen, but they mostly use carbon dioxide. But they don't have to. These microorganisms do not need sunlight like plants would need to carry out
Oh,
photosynthesis and things like that.
mm-hmm. See, because you can grow these things in the dark. They probably like the dark environment anyway. Nice, warm, dark environment.
Yes,
Bacteria love that.
yes. So the fungi. That's why I like when you have bread or something and it starts to grow. Microorganisms usually, if you have it in a dark, moist, uh, warm environment, that's when you have the best microbial growth.
So there. That's it. And so there you have it. Now I could feed the other one. Y'all want me to feed the other one too? I can get this done and afterward. Oh shoot, I gotta go get some more flour. So there we have it. Let's go over what we've done. We have we go over the equipment, a a thermometer, a scale, a vessel.
Jamie, baby, I can't hear you.
I We can't hear you anymore.
Oh my god, oh my god.
Already has yeah, because you said that, didn't you? That flour already got microorganisms in it already, and that you can't like eat it raw because it can make you sick.
Yeah, there could
So
be some pathogenic.
it's
Yeah,
already
it could be
got a
pathogens
yeast
present.
in it.
Yes.
You just wanted to bring it. You want to bring it to life.
Yeah, so that's why you don't want to use the bleach flour because the bleach flour it'll kill some of those microorganisms that are present. You want to use pretty much flour that's in its purest form so
Mm-hmm.
that those microorganisms will be present, but also know that there could be pathogenic ones present as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we've gone over the material, all equipment, the ingredients, flour, water. That's simple. And there you go. There you have a very simple tradition that you can pass down to your family. And this is going to go on because we're going to bake some bread with this starter. So y'all get ready.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to do an update tomorrow. I'll come back on and I'll just show the progress of mine to see if it increased in size any or what happened. Or I'll just do a little update for the next 5 days to see the progress. And then yes, definitely we'll be coming back to actually show you how to go about using it to prepare bread. Um, so you'll be making your own sourdough. So we want to give everybody an opportunity if they would like to partake in this activity is they can go out and get the ingredients to start their starter, and then by the time we get to the bread making class, everybody will have starter ready.
So if you all have any questions, please feel free to contact me, contact Nadia. You can message me on Facebook Messenger, on Instagram. I think they even have some kind of messenger here. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Do your own research. Because this is going to be your project, and it's going to be what you put into it. So yeah, go for
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for coming on this evening to show us how to start our sourdough starter. Let's see here. All right. So if you guys have any questions or if you're interested in any of the other courses that I offer, you can visit my website, Kiwi Produce School. It's www.kiwiproduce.farm/courses. I'll also add this information on the recipe to the school website, as well as on the description of the YouTube as well as the Facebook video, so that you guys can start your starter if you choose to do so. And again, if you have any questions, you can email me at urbanfarmsister@gmail.com. Or if you're enrolled in one of the courses, you can send me messages on the school website. You can always find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram under Urban Farm Sister. And Chef Celeste, can you tell us what your social media handles are so they can like and subscribe to yours as well?
Yes, they can contact me on Facebook Messenger at Heavenly Plates Sides and Desserts. I can also you can also email me very simply at heavenlyplates one word at gmail.com. And this will also be in the description, as well as at Heavenly Plates on Instagram. Those are the easiest ways to contact me. Um, if, like I said, if you have any questions, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, and the email is perfect.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, thank
Okay,
you,
thank
and
you.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
And I will be back tomorrow to show you guys an update of my starter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like again, if you have any questions, just send me a message. So
Okay.
hope you guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye
You're
bye.
welcome. Bye bye.